This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Today we actually have a special guest with us in the house inside the Wolf's Den. Robert Webre, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be in the Wolf's Den.
It is. Well, you know, it's the topic that we're going to be discussing today is in self-defense, which is... I'm excited about this topic. For one, I'm out there a lot as a property manager, right? And there's a lot of real estate agents that are out there. And so we need to learn how to defend ourselves. So Robert is going to give us some tips today. But Robert, real quick, I just want to give you a quick bio on Robert. So Silverback Self-Defense was developed because of a passion to teach people how to effectively defend themselves. The founder, Robert Webre, has been a lifelong martial artist. Having been bullied as a child, Robert understood firsthand the power that comes from learning how to defend yourself. So, Robert, tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did all this get started?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I tell people all the time is what really led me into learning martial arts was being bullied as a child. I was a late bloomer, I was a late developer, and I was being bullied at school. And funny story is my mom actually wouldn't let me train in martial arts because I was already getting into fights and thought I would learn how to fight better, which I was always wondering why wouldn't fighting better be better if I had to get into fights? But she was really hesitant. She was we tried a lot of things. I was the poster child for ADD, couldn't sit still, couldn't stop talking, things that, we hear about all today, but we really didn't hear about them in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And so learning martial arts, I tell people all the time, learning martial arts literally has saved my life. But I grew up outside of New Orleans, and the only martial arts school there was a Taekwondo school. So it wasn't like it is today in the mid 80s. I've literally been training on and off in martial arts for over 40 years. And there was one school, they called it Korean karate at the time because they were trying to take advantage of the Karate Kid. Everybody wanted to wax on and wax off. And it was very small. Your conference room was bigger than what the martial arts school was. Wow. From that, I didn't realize when I was young, I was learning Taekwondo, which is a Korean martial art. It's the discipline that I've been doing the longest. Okay. But I've been very, very blessed to find something I love to do. But that was the initial. So when I talk, especially with children, when someone brings a child in who's being bullied, it's something for me that I can really relate to them and help them with that.
Right.
Yeah. How did you transition this now to, because you're taking it now from a school that you own to now taking into a franchise model with Silverback Self-Defense. How did that all birth? And
So I and for people that don't know traditional martial arts, the higher you get, the longer it is between your advancements. So I'm a 6th-degree black belt today in Taekwondo, which just means I've been doing it for a really long time. But there a lot of time in between levels at that point. It's not like when you're a lower level, you're promoting all the time.
Correct.
And then the style that I had trained in really didn't have a lot of weapons or weapons defense or groundwork. And so I started about 10 years ago doing Krav Maga, which is Israeli self-defense. Okay. So if you've ever seen the movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez or Gal Gadot from Wonder Woman, she's Israeli. Yeah. So, and then from that, it transitioned into ground defense training in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But what changed was about 7 years ago, I read an article in a HR magazine that said companies were hiring people to come in and train their staffs. And I said, well, I can do that. I've been doing that for years, but I just always had people come to me. And so that birthed Silverback. And Silverback is different than a traditional martial arts school where our whole focus is going to the customer. Okay. Where traditional martial arts, what you always think about is you're going into a studio 2 or 3 times a week, bringing your kids, and they're going through belt ranks and going to tournaments and breaking boards. This is none of that. This is all literally just learn self-defense. in your home, at your business, at a park. I've been in a barn. I mean, anywhere you can go, any place you can think of, we can teach somebody how to be safe. And we've developed the curriculum from those 3 different disciplines, from Taekwondo, from Krav Maga, and from
And so you've kind of blended them into a self-defense course.
Well, and what we do is we pick the most effective techniques
For that.
for the problem, and we take it from whatever discipline it is. So if you're on the ground, and most people know this today, after 25 years of the UFC, if you're on the ground, jiu-jitsu is what you want to know. You know, if you're doing weapons, Krav Maga is what you want to know. I mean, obviously, the Israelis understand that. And Taekwondo is incredible for striking. You know, you watch these guys punching and kicking people, you know, it's great for striking. So we can use all 3 of those elements to, we say, we've created the easiest to learn and remember system for someone who doesn't want to spend 10 years getting a black belt.
Right.
But wants to learn how to defend themselves.
Is there one discipline that you found was harder than the other? Like in those?
For me, jiu-jitsu is always has been, always will be, because my brain doesn't work the way jiu-jitsu works. I always want to go the wrong way. I always want to move the wrong direction. And it's a constant battle for me to understand doing it the correct way. That's not going to get me choked out.
Well, I mean, how we were introduced to some BNI groups, but also you're really big in Houston in the real estate space, you know, teaching a lot of realtors, title companies, property managers. And so I would love to focus a little bit on that. Because I know I personally have entered vacant houses, had kids getting high, and I chased them out. Probably not the best idea, but and then I've had, you know, we have female field inspectors. We have Joni that goes to houses all the time that are vacant, and she even one time had a squatter in the house that went up into the attic when she entered, and then she ran out. Luckily, called the police, but.
Which is the best thing to do.
So that's what my question is. So like, as you enter, like what is there a practical, we're not going to steal from your training, but I mean, just give me some practical advice. What do you recommend for realtors, for property managers that are entering vacant properties or maybe risky situations, especially in Houston? There could be some,
Well, you know, and you're right. So for us, the real estate agents and real estate market has built September's real estate safety month.
Right.
And so we literally spend every September and part of October training realtors all over about how to do their jobs safer. And it's according to the National Association of Realtors, 40% of realtors have experienced a fearful situation. So I believe it. It's pretty high. And in Houston, obviously, you know, we hear, I had a commercial agent tell me the other day, they walked into a commercial space and it was full of rats. It hadn't been shown in a while.
Oh, wow.
And so you're not bringing a client in there, but like squatters and renters, and, you know, all of those different scenarios. But in most cases, when something happens bad to an agent, the mode starts off as robbery and then turns into something else. They're set up to be robbed, and then it turns into something else. So one of the biggest things we try to talk to agents about, no matter what you're doing, is you want to make sure you're causing your client to give you as much information about them up front as possible.
Absolutely.
Because if they're really not going to be a client, then they're probably not going to want to give you information. So how I relate that to real estate, we travel. We have 3 kids who are out of the state, and we use a company called Turo. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. We love renting cars from people. So we were just in Arizona visiting our daughter, and the owner of the Turo said, take a picture of you with your driver's license, put your face up to it, and then put it in front of the license plate. So I know you're taking the car, I know who you are, and I know what your face looks like on your license. Now, maybe you don't want to ask a client to do that.
You're not extreme, but hey,
but
pretty close though.
It's the same idea.
Yes.
They sight unseen. I'm picking this car up at the airport. There's a lockbox on the car. No different than a house.
Wow.
I've never even met the person. Rented a car, picked it up, dropped it back off, took a picture, send it back. and we're done.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing where they know that who I am, what car I have. It's the same type of thing. And also, we're big about technology, using technology. So obviously, since you're a couple, sharing something like Find My Phone or Life 360, where somebody knows where you're going or what you're doing.
Right.
And then the biggest tip that I give agents is controlling who's behind you. Because when you look at attacks, typically it's at the door. And so never allowing a client to be standing behind you at a door.
Gotcha.
So how do you control that? You either get there before them. And so, like you said, you had a squatter. So fortunately, you were there probably before your client. You were able to figure out that this is not safe, and you did the right thing and you left, because we should never confront someone. We should always leave and let somebody else do that. That's not your job.
Right.
But if you're going to a lockbox at a door and you're with a client, the easiest way to avoid them being behind you is ask them to wait in the car. Can you wait in your car? I want to go check the property to make sure it's okay. And then you can really share in real life, because I've gone to a property and had a squatter, where I've gone to a property and had a renter who was still there, who were not going to let us into the house.
Right.
And that way you control where that person is in comparison to where you are. And you never want someone to have your back.
Gotcha.
And so things like that we go through in a seminar, I try to tell people I want to be a pebble in their shoe, where every time they take a step, they're thinking about how to be safer, because being a real estate agent is an unsafe profession.
Correct.
Second only to nursing and being attacked. Nurses and doctors are the number one industry that gets attacked in our country.
Wow.
Real estate agents are number two.
Wow.
So
I remember there was, because we're also in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Do you remember there was realtors were getting attacked, like they were being targeted.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
it was,
Kind of the same situation we said earlier. Like they didn't know their client, right? They were meeting these clients
sight unseen,
and that's probably the worst thing that you could do. Something that we do, which is kind of talking to what you do, like with our platform, leasing platform, Tenant Turner, same thing. They have, before they see the property, they have to show their driver's license, right? And so at least we're seeing who they are.
Right, and that's who they say they are.
Question, I mean, we live in Texas, so what's your take on weapons? So, protecting yourself, whether it be mace or a gun.
Great question. So my belief is every single person who is an adult should carry some type of personal protection.
Okay.
I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're going. I have 4 adult children. They all have different levels of personal protection. I carry personal protection with me, minimum of 2 things, maximum of 3 things everywhere I go. I have 3 things with me right now while we're doing this.
Okay.
Question I always ask is, what are you willing to carry? Because that's the key.
Okay.
If it's in your pocket, if it's in your purse, it's not going to do it.
Right.
Hold on.
You gotta be ready to get
Let me find it. Wait. Let me find it. That's not. So we have stabbing devices that are non-lethal.
Okay.
They're called Kubatons, where they're on a keychain and you're going to use it to hit somebody.
Okay.
You have pepper spray, which is further away. We have an entire line of stun guns, which are fantastic. And then obviously from there, you get into, are you going to carry a knife, or are you going to carry a pistol? And are you willing to use those?
Correct.
So we have 5 levels of personal protection, from non-lethal to lethal. And everything is based on what you're willing to do. Because I could tell you, hey, you should carry a gun, because that's my belief.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not going to shoot that gun,
then you shouldn't.
Right.
If you're not going to learn how to use it, you're not going to shoot it, you shouldn't do it.
Right.
But you can carry. I wasn't planning on showing.
No, it's okay.
On show and tell, but you can carry that. You can carry this, and it does. There's nothing. And if you hit somebody with that, they're not gonna think twice about what they're doing. And so you just have to be willing. But I'm telling you, I've had so many clients who have shared stories with me about using personal protection because we taught them how to use personal protection.
And that's the key right there. I think, if you're going to do this, like you need to be trained, right? You need
classes.
I guess somebody like you, a professional that can teach them.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's an example. I always get people who buy pepper spray, but they are never going to use it. So we have actually a pepper spray trainer that's inert, that's just water. So that way you can actually fire and know how to fire pepper spray. Mm-hmm. Because most people buy a pepper spray and never.
I have one.
Right. and they've never fired it. No. And so I always tell people the time to figure out that you don't know how to fire it is not when you need to use it.
Exactly.
So we actually have a trainer that you can fire.
That's a good idea.
And it's just water.
Right.
Because you'll be sitting there messing with it, trying to figure out how to just push it.
Well, I had a client tell me they bought one and they had it on their keychain and their child thought it was a air freshener.
Oh, gosh.
And sprayed it in their car. And they had to go get their AC light cleaned out because you never get rid of that.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
and that's something you guys with Silverback, you also have. It's not just self-defense. But I guess how to define that. It's also weapons training.
Yeah. So I know where you're going. So hand to hand is what you were typically thinking about self-defense. Mm-hmm. Firearms, which we do firearms training. So from basic firearms to tactical firearms for somebody who wants to actually carry. Okay. And then we have an entire line of personal protection products that we can train on that are, we go from non-lethal to lethal. Okay. So, and here, the fun thing is like, I have clients who want me to train them on how to use a firearm. We can actually go to their home or come to their office and train their staff how to use a firearm because we use a laser training system. So we don't bring any live ammo, but they're actually holding a real firearm, shooting at a real target with a real firearm with no live ammo, and the laser picks it up on my cell phone and shows them where they're hitting. Yeah. And so we actually can go and show somebody how to walk through their house and use their firearm to clear their house using a laser training system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we both have our concealed handgun license. And then I did a real extensive training outside of Vegas for like a week straight. But and so I don't carry on. The thing I always worry about is like, when it comes down to it, are you really going to kill somebody, Well,
and it's the mental.
Yeah.
The physical, if you have the physical, then it becomes the mental. Are you willing to use deadly force?
Correct.
And then understanding, are you within your rights and the law to use deadly force? That's the other.
And then, or you make a mistake and that's what they teach you so much in these classes. Like, it doesn't take much if you just miss and somebody might be behind there. Somebody, it could be a restaurant or something else, and
you're responsible.
And you're responsible.
Yep.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think if you're a business owner and you're listening to this podcast right now, I think this is crucial to get your staff some training. I know that we are on schedule to get our staff some training, right? Yes. But I mean, our people are out there and you want them, whether they're using, weapons or not, they need to be able to defend themselves. Right.
100%.
And so if you're a business owner out there, that's something that you should consider doing.
Yeah. Well, and property management companies are one of our biggest clients because they have people in the field. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with a property management company right now on the other side of town who has people going out and they're going to look at their properties, but they're being I don't know the word, like it's not accosted, but confronted by renters because they're taking pictures of the properties
every day. I mean, you go into a situation where tenant doesn't pay their rent, right? And they're upset and we have to do an eviction and a writ of possession. Yeah. They're actually, we had a situation like this in Albuquerque a couple months ago, right? The tenant refused to move out. And so our guy went out there to do a move out inspection and the guy came out irate, yelling at him with a gun, and at that point I said, look, he's got a weapon. You don't turn around, but you get out of there. You get out of there, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, those happen all the time, and it's when situations where tenants or whoever gets upset, And
you're dealing all the time with a highly charged situation. Correct. Mm-hmm. No matter what's going on, you're having that emotion, and you never want your employee to have to defend themselves.
Right.
But you want them to know what to do.
Exactly.
If they have to, if they're given no other choice, because that's the thing that we talk about. We never want you to use what we teach you, but what if you're given no other choice and you have to?
Yeah.
Then what do you do? And so that when we go in, when we train somebody, that's what we're training them on, of what to do if you have no other choice.
Right.
So
let's talk about some of your accomplishments and achievements. I'm sure you got some great stories and some great, where maybe somebody utilized your guys' self-training, skills and it protected them and it prevented something worse from happening. Just maybe tell us.
And hopefully they came to you before, they had a situation and not after, right? But,
well, unfortunately, I would love to say that everyone comes to us before.
No.
But that's not true. Most of the time when someone's hiring us, there's a catalyst for it. Something's already happened. And they're hiring us as a reaction to what's happened.
Right.
So it's just an example. We had a really big company downtown who their employees all went out and were sitting on a patio, and one of their employees got stabbed on a patio in downtown. And that was a catalyst for us coming in and really talking to them about, what happened and how to prevent it. But, martial arts wise, my biggest accomplishments for me is traveling the world. I joke in my seminars, I've literally got to travel the world punching and kicking people. Wow. So I've competed in the United States from Florida to Alaska.
Okay.
In Canada multiple times, in Peru, in Argentina, in England, in Rome, in South Korea.
Wow.
Training and doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've literally been able to see the world because of that. From a child who was bullied to, and then being able to be a coach for the United States Taekwondo team.
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of my biggest accomplishment personally is winning medals, but bigger than that, having students who have traveled the world and won medals internationally in competition.
Is there a country that's more talented in that space than others?
So in our world in Taekwondo, Argentina is very dominant.
Okay.
Obviously South Korea, because that's where Taekwondo originated. But when you look internationally where we go, they seem to have the biggest skill set, passion for that. And then obviously we have incredibly talented martial artists in the United States.
Yeah.
The biggest difference for us is it's very hard for all of us to get together and train as martial artists. In other countries, mass transit exists. You can get from one side of the country to the other. Like, as an example, I have a friend of mine, who trains in Krav Maga in England. And, they'll have 300 people at a seminar because everybody can just jump on a train and, be in another country in no time, so, but, and then I've had lots of people who have shared, like, from children with bullying to real estate agents to people who have come back and told us they've either had to defend themselves or they've gotten out of a situation because of things that we taught them.
And a lot of it's just prevention, right? I think it's like just preventing you from getting into a situation like that, right?
Awareness, and avoidance.
Yeah.
Those are the two big things.
Those are gold right
that
there.
we talk about.
Yeah. So, this is an entrepreneurial show.
Sure.
So, I'm sure along your journey, you've had maybe challenges or we like to, Joni and I always share our vulnerabilities and stuff we've had to overcome because I think people can relate to that, right? We're all, so you've shared a little bit about your bullying and overcoming that. Is there any other, being either in martial arts or in business for yourself, challenges you've had to overcome and maybe how you overcame those?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so for the traditional martial arts side, it's always having to be better, but understanding I'm a coach that's in my head. No matter what I'm doing, I'm a coach. So how do I get to be a better coach? How can I take, whether it's a 10-year-old child or 20-year-old adult or a 50-year-old person, and give them the best training that they can do? So always that's a struggle. And today it's even seems to be more difficult with children, because their attention spans are so short to get them to stay focused and do what we want them to do. As a business owner, I think a lot of times having imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Am I good enough to stand in front of this group and tell them what to do? And then scaling Silverback has been a challenge. Finding people who have the same passion.
Right.
You understand, you have an office that's not here. So finding someone who's passionate about what you do, who's not here, who you don't see every day, I always equate it to like giving them one of your children. And y'all understand. So for me, and I'm very blessed now, we have instructors from Sugar Land to Conroe, that I am not the only face of the business. And I have people that I'm very confident that I can send out or send to someone's home who can do a good job.
Right.
But that took lots and lots of time. And then, before we started, we were talking about COVID. COVID really derailed us. 2019 was a phenomenal year for us. We really had got some momentum built up. And then obviously everything came to a crash in 2020, and it's just now getting back to what it was. And we still don't have the corporate business that we had, because companies still aren't going back to work, and office buildings are 50% occupied, and they're still, some of our best clients are still not bringing people in to do that. So those are challenges. That's really, where we pivoted to become more personal trainers and go to people's homes. Really saved our business. Because we had to find ways to generate revenue. Using a laser training system for firearms really changed our business, because now we can go anywhere and train somebody. And so we, but then the biggest thing for me, so there's a book called Blue Ocean. And it talks about breaking the cycle of what people think about how a business should be. So one of the best stories in that is the guy who founded Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil is a phenomenal company that has reinvented the circus from what we remember as a child to adult entertainment. And he talks about, he had an idea of how he was going to change the circus and what he's done. And I read the book, and I fight that same battle with this of teaching people they can learn how to defend themselves, and it doesn't have to take them 10 years, and they don't have to go to a martial arts school 3 times a week. They don't have to wear a uniform, and they don't have to break boards, and they don't have to go to a tournament. Fighting that, what people have preconceived notion of how to learn how to defend yourself is one of the things that we're trying to reinvent, how people see how you can learn how to defend yourself.
That's I didn't even think about that. Yeah, and it makes sense, because not everybody's into Taekwondo and the martial arts like it was in the in the 80s with Karate Kid. Maybe Cobra Kai brought it back a little bit. But
it definitely, Cobra Kai has definitely reinvigorated that. But when you really look truly at what most people learn in a traditional martial art, no matter what the discipline is, most of it is useless in self-defense. Most of it's being taught for tournaments, for sport. And so what we have done is we don't do any of that when it comes to this. We're not teaching you how to go to a tournament, and we're teaching you what to do in a real life situation. And we're eliminating all of that you really don't have to spend time working on. You only need to spend time working on what's really going to happen to you.
Correct.
So. Well, I love that you found this niche dealing with realtors too, right? Because I mean, they're always going to be out there. They got to show houses. Property managers got to show houses, right? And staying laser focused on that niche.
Well, and it's great for us, but it's also great for the agents, because there's never a time where I'm in front of a group of agents that they don't walk away and say, man, I didn't think about half of the stuff that you just told me. And it's so important. And or they say, you know, oh, I used to think about that, but I don't anymore. So, you know, one of the jokes with agents was, I'm so old, the first time I bought a house, I actually got in the car and the agent drove me around. And I'm like, please tell me you're never doing that. And you know, and it was like, I have had agents who tell me that they're still driving people around. I'm like, no, not today.
Not today.
No. So,
let's talk about some of your current projects. What are you currently working on? I would love to hear more about Silverback and where you're looking to take this. And
sure. Yeah. Well, and we mentioned a little bit earlier, we are franchising. So we're looking for people who want to own a mobile self-defense training business. And they can be anywhere in the country because we can replicate and duplicate what we're doing anywhere. We don't need a space. You need a vehicle. You need a way to go to people. You need to understand what we're doing and how we're doing. So that's our expansion plans as far as being able to do that. And there's
no limitations as far as, I guess, because you're using lasers, like no specialized insurance or gun.
Well, because you're still taking somebody to the range. So
you are.
Oh yeah. So we have insurance for everything. We have insurance for hand to hand. We have insurance for firearms. And we make sure that the person who's doing the training is insured and background checked before they're doing anything with a client. But you know, because just like with you guys, you know, imagine somebody in Albuquerque could be doing the exact same thing. It's just knowing that area and knowing the problems in that area where I know Houston. I don't know anything that's going on in Albuquerque. So.
Awesome. So if you're interested in learning more, we're going to put all your information, contact information, website, everything in the show notes so that people can reach out if they're interested.
Well, one thing I also want to talk about, because I know that September is Real Estate Safety Month. So what are some of the things that you're doing this month with some groups and, you know?
Well, we've literally been from Magnolia to Sugarland to Tomball to Cypress to Katy with different groups, working with them. We have the hands-on part, and then we have the firearm part, and we're doing both of those all month long with different groups. And most of the time, a property management company or a title company are the organizers of the events, and then they bring us out to their location to be able to do that.
Awesome.
If they want to join, they can go to your website and find out where you're located, what events are coming up and all that. So
everything that we have that's open to the public is on our websites under events. And so it's silverback-selfdefense.com.
Cool. Awesome. So we have some general questions that we ask all our guests that come in. If you could go back into your early 20s, what advice would you give yourself?
Start doing this sooner. I love martial arts. I love teaching martial arts, but I've paid my landlord, $1 million to have a space, and I would do this much quicker and not spend so much on that.
Right.
So
go ahead.
And I think you probably answered this, but the other question we had, what's your next? What are you looking to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years? And I think franchising is probably the big.
Franchising, and then we're also working on videoing our training to where, hypothetically, as a couple, you say, hey, I want to do private training with you. Then we would have we're working on a subscription service to where then you get the lesson after, so then you can actually practice and watch. The technique.
I love that.
So in our business, subscription services are huge. And so that's one of the things looking to do is to create a subscription model for people who do training with us.
Well, I think that's awesome because a lot of our listeners are, everywhere, not just in Houston. So, I'm sure you offer other services as well where you can do Zoom, type of setup, coaching. But the training stuff would definitely be key.
The subscription would be huge. It just takes it all over the world, really.
Yes.
And
we'll go anywhere. I tell people, call me and say, will you go? Will you pay me?
You will go anywhere.
If you'll pay me, I'll go.
Yeah.
So,
And it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you work with families. I'm thinking personally for us. I think it would be a great opportunity. Like what would you work on? So we have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old, and then obviously Joni. What would?
So we literally come to the house.
Okay.
We have an instructor come to the house, and we go through. They're in 6-hour blocks.
Okay.
So beginner 6 hours, intermediate 6 hours, advanced 6 hours, and you take those and they build on top of one another.
Okay.
And every time you work on adding another piece of the pie, to where by the time you finish that 18 hours, you have a complete pie of general self-defense, but you also have notes of what we covered. And then eventually you'll have videos to where you can go back after we're gone with the kids and go, okay, we're going to review lesson number 5.
Correct.
And you're going to be able to pull it up and go, okay, here's what we covered in lesson 5. You can't remember what to do, but you have me on video doing it. Awesome. And that's where we're moving towards. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this episode has been awesome. Remember when I think that we talk about business all the time on this show, right? You know, how to, do things differently and perfect your business, those kind of things. But we never really talk about how to protect yourself, protect your staff and your family, right? So I think it's something that we need to be looking at more.
Yeah, this world is getting crazier by the minute. And people, since COVID, people are, I think mental health, and there's a lot of issues that are out there. So I think it's just important to protect yourself. And if you own a business, you should be protecting your staff.
Well, and the thing about protecting your staff is it's a value added. We talk about like a team building where you're showing them really you do care not only about them at work, but on their personal time too. But, we talk about all the time, since COVID, people have, the rules don't apply to them. And that's really a lot of the problem.
Right.
And unfortunately, the world's getting crazier. Houston's crazy, which keeps me in business. So it's a good and bad.
It's a good and bad. Yeah.
So,
well, we appreciate you coming in and being a part of this today. And we enjoyed the conversation. And we're looking forward to doing a lot of events with you in the future, as far as us promoting the events, but also working maybe with our family and our staff. And so we appreciate it today. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this, please share it. Your reviews really count, so we appreciate all the reviews and feedback we get from all of you. And if anything, we'll see you all next week.
See ya, everyone.
All right.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolfsDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.